As a kid growing up, I was always fascinated with sound. As I've gotten older, I've come to realize I probably was an autistic kid, and then I became an adult, and that's just sort of like, an artist or whatever. At the time, I was one of those weird kids that was really fascinated with sound. And I would always listen to things. Like one of my fondest memories of being a child is lying on the couch in my grandparents' apartment in Palisades Park, New Jersey. And the Mets are on the little AM radio. My grandfather's playing solitaire, and you can hear the cards flipping. You can hear the cars driving by. And there's this fan that they had, because back in, I guess, the 70s, 60s, you didn't have air conditioning. You had fans in the windows, You might have an air conditioning unit, but there's a lot of fans. And the fans made these wonderful deep drones, just sort of like this Tibetan monk, it was just gorgeous to listen to this, but weird, but sort of weird, right? Because you're listening to a fan. And later in life, as a sort of aside, I founded the Tucson Electric Fan Appreciation Society, where you get a CD and you get a certificate, which is about 60 minutes of an electric fan. And it's gotten good reviews. It actually got some good reviews in Signal to Noise. But one night, where we live in Tucson, I decided to go outside. It was like around 3 a.m. or so, and I'm not sure why I was up at 3 a.m. But I went outside, and if you're like me, you'll go outside and you'll lie down on maybe the dog bed and look up at the stars. And because the dog bed's great, it's very cushy and it's warm, And lying there, I was aware of when the swamp coolers are off. I guess it was around summertime. Swamp coolers are off. There aren't the helicopters not going around. The city itself has a tone. It's got this just a very distinctive sound. It's not the trains, it's not the highways, it's just this steady buzz. And so what I did was I got my microphone and a stand like this, and I ran the microphone into a compression sustain pedal, which is basically a pedal that allows you to amplify sounds really loud. And I hooked that into a guitar tuner, and then I just determined what the sound of Tucson is. And the sound of Tucson, where I am, is a G note. It's like a perfect G note. Just it's right there. And so this got me thinking more about sound and how sound can be used in the transformative nature of sound. And around 2006, there was a lot of sort of fear and loathing going on. It was sort of post 9/11, and people were, equating somehow Mexican immigration with terrorism, and there were stories about prayer mats in the desert, which was always weird to me because there's prayer mats in the desert, so immediately the leap was made that this was Al Qaeda. But if you really went to the desert and you saw all these crucifixes and stuff, it's there's Catholics everywhere. The desert's full of Catholics, right? No one's freaking out about that. It's like prayer mats, and even if there were prayer mats, who knows? And so I had this idea of finding out what the wall in Nogales, Arizona, that separates the city of Nogales, Sonora from Nogales, Arizona, what that wall sounds like. At the time, there was talk about basically walling in the country, building walls from sea to shining sea. And so I wanted to go to Nogales wall. Isn't that cool? That's what Tucson's all about. It's all that stuff. Going down to Nogales and listening to the wall and perhaps playing the wall and seeing if the sounds in some way could transform it. So I got a contact microphone, which is a lot like a stethoscope. It's a piezo disc, and it allows you to place it on a piece of metal or a piece of wood or whatever you have, and just crank up the sound with that sustain pedal. And you will hear sounds that are not normally audible to the human ear. I drove down May 2006, hooked up the microphone to the wall, got myself some electrical tape put on, ran the wires down, got my headphones out, had a cello bow, and the wall itself, which I should describe, is made from helicopter landing pads. Okay, and these helicopter landing pads were used in Desert Storm. I think there's some Vietnam stuff, and they're all held together. At the time, they were held together with bolts, welding. They sort of interlock, so you had these nice little tines on them. And people weren't throwing rocks yet at Border Patrol, so the height of it kind of went like this, went like a V on the top of it. So it was very nice. You get these aeolian sounds when the wind blows. I got all this stuff hooked up to the wall, the fence, to play it, and have my headphones on. Just as I'm about to do it, a police patrol car comes pulling up, and it's a highway patrol car. And I kind of stepped back, and Iraq and Afghanistan, all those things were happening. I looked at all my equipment on the wall, and it looked a lot like an improvised explosive device, right? There's this guy down on the wall hooking stuff up to it with headphones and wires, and I'm thinking, I'm going to want to explain this before anything happens, right? And a big part of this whole project is not been confrontational. I want to explain what I'm doing because it's weird, right? Someone playing a wall, trying to transform it into an instrument. That's weird. So you need to explain it in some shape or form. It's not weird to everybody, though. I found out there's actually quite a few fence and wall players out there. But by time, I'll get to that. So I got my stuff, put it down, went to the police officer, and I took out my ID. He looked at it, and he got on his radio, and he called it in. That yep, there's this guy over here, and he's what are you doing again? I'm playing the wall. I'm going to play the wall with this cello bow, and my implement's a mass percussion. I'm going to make some music with it. It's like, all right, he's playing the wall. Right? So in that very moment, when that sound, without even having played it yet, right, the transformation began. Because never, I'm sure, in that guy's mind, had he thought of the wall as an instrument, right? Now all of a sudden, it's no longer a wall, it's no longer a fence, it's not something that's separating two countries or separating people, it's an instrument, and instruments are something that have the power to unite. If you're open to music, people can communicate without having any kind of verbal cues. It doesn't matter what language you speak or what country you're from, music's pretty much a universal language. And so while I'm standing there, he's running my stuff, we start having this conversation, and we talk about John Cage and his concepts of silence. We talk about Pauline Oliveros and deep listening. And when we're done with that, he suddenly gives back my driver's license. He gets another call. He shakes my hand and he says, congratulations, or good luck with your project, and hopefully you can put Nogales on the map for something other than the usual stuff. And the usual stuff being immigration, drugs, crime, violence, blah, 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 fear and loathing, right? So after that, I spent the day playing basically all the infrastructure. I played all of the Nogales wall, I played the barbed wire fences, I played the Ocotillo fences, I played the mattress coil fences, which are basically mattresses that ranchers would line up, and then the fabric deteriorates, and all that was left were coils. That was 5 years ago. Since that time, all these big industrial, Boeing type walls have gone up, and I've continued to play them and transform them. It's a very surreal thing, a very absurd thing to be out in the middle of the desert with like a cello bow and Boeing barbed wire or hammering on metal. And at first, Border Patrol always wanted to know what I was doing, right? But now they kind of know what I'm doing, and I've got a business card I hand them, and we have conversations about the wall, and we have conversations about music. There's an audio piece that I had that went out over National Public Radio's All Things Considered, and to hear Noah Adams say, and now the wall in Nogales, Arizona, and like millions of people are listening to the wall in Nogales, right? They're not hearing the usual, again, fear and loathing drum beat. They're thinking of it as an instrument, something that can change perceptions. And so I've been doing that ever since then. There's a lot of stories I can tell you. I can tell you stories about doing duets with everything from people on both sides of the wall to duets with helicopters. A musician who flew out here from Australia. He plays the drought-proof fence, and we wound up doing some duets together. Kronos Quartet has built a fence of their own now, and they're making big money playing fences. And along the way, I took the recordings that I did, which are called the Weyant Project. At first I gave them away, because my idea was just to give it away for free, take it, listen to it, talk about it. German radio picked it up, it had this whole global audience thing going on. But I gave it to a humanitarian organization in town, with 100% of the downloads going to help basically migrants who are crossing through the desert. So the fence became a wall. The wall then is turned into something that can help people. And so basically, I guess the bottom line is, as far as sound goes, Tucson's a really great sounding place. And if you can listen to each other, I think things would be a lot better that way. So.